Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office with another detailed weather forecast. We're going to jump straight into things, folks, because we have a bit to talk about as far as your holiday travel goes, because a lot of you are going to be traveling for Christmas. If you're flying back east, or if some of you are flying back west, you're definitely going to need to pay attention to the forecast because things could be pretty wild, especially across Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, including for central and northern California, as next week could be pretty stormy. And for others, you might see more snowfall coming your way with then a huge warm up. So in this video, we're going to be talking about that. But before we get into the forecast, I thought this would be really cool to show you all of what is going on right now in the Central Valley of California. I know this is a more localized phenomenon, but guess what? There's Tule fog. We got fog going on across much of the Central Valley, all the way down to Bakersfield, the Grapevine, all the way north into, say, Yuba City and Chico, starting to burn off over there. But look at what we have here, the Central Valley fog, what is again known as Tule fog, and it really keeps temperatures cool. And with long nights, short days, shallower sun angle, you can get this fog that extends for weeks on end. In this case, it's not going to do that because we have a help of more weather systems this weekend and early next week that will keep the air stirred up. But until about Friday morning, we could have some very thick fog problems for Thursday morning and then also for Friday morning. So keep that in mind if you're doing anything outdoors. If you're traveling, it's going to be really foggy the next few mornings. And that is all due to a very strong temperature inversion. Warm air aloft, cold air at the surface. You get an inversion, and that traps in pollutants and the fog, and we don't get much breaking up of that stratus once it lifts off the ground. And in fact, I did check some observations, and some of the foothills, temperatures in the low 40s right now. Right above that cloud deck, temperatures are in the 70s. So huge temperature inversion, huge contrast with only a few hundred feet to spare between that fog deck and where it's the warmest air, which is right above the fog deck typically, and it's in the 70s right now. Really incredible. Now that we talked about that, let's get into the forecast now, because a lot of you are wondering about what is headed your way. So let me bring up my Epic Pin here so I can draw for you all and illustrate. We have this weather system moving across the northeast, bringing a little bit of snow this afternoon, also across portions of the southeast. Actually, there's some not Tule at this point. Oh my gosh, got my words mixed up. But yeah, there is a little bit of low stratus overspreading Indiana right now, also for portions of Michigan. It'll be interesting if that settles down to the surface. If it does, it could become foggy tonight there. There's more snow on the way, though. Look at that. We got an Alberta Clipper. Yep. Alberta Clipper for people that live in the Dakotas, also in southern portion there of Alberta, Canada, and Saskatchewan, Canada, and that moves down from northwest to southeast. So for Thursday morning, for tomorrow afternoon, snow is going to move into your area. So for the morning commute could be interesting for those people that live in Minneapolis. If you're in the North Dakota area, some snow is expected. We're not talking a whole lot of accumulation here, more like maybe 3 to 6 inches, but enough to, make things a little on the interesting side as far as your road travel goes. But it's really, it's not that I don't want to focus on the Midwest, but it's really the Pacific Northwest and the western half of the U.S. that could really have some trouble ahead, trouble times for the holidays week, because we have repeated storms that are going to be coming in. So that moves through, that moves into the northeast. You're going to get some snow, and then guess what? Our focus really is going to be shifting across California, over Oregon and Washington. That's where we're going to be seeing repeated storms, atmospheric rivers, strong winds, heavy mountain snowfall, likely above past levels. So above, say, maybe 7,000 feet, maybe 5,500 feet for the extreme northern tier of this Cascades like Washington and Oregon. So warmer systems, but also very wet. because warmer air holds more moisture. So there's storm number 1 moving on through the Pacific Northwest. This is going to be more of the weaker of the bunch because what comes on next week is going to be a whole different story. Let's not forget about how cold it's going to be across the Midwest. Even so there's no precipitation here, temperatures will be well below average, and that will be the end of any Arctic outbreaks you will see through the rest of December, because once we look at your actual air temperature, it's going to be pretty interesting. All right, storm number 2 comes in. This is going to be a Sunday night through Monday morning time frame for the Pacific Northwest. This is, again, where our active weather is going to be located. So if you're doing any traveling, if you're flying to Seattle, if you're flying to Oregon, if you're flying to Portland, if you're flying to Spokane, if you're even flying to Sacramento or, say, northernmost California, keep that in mind. It's going to be wet. It's going to be windy. The weather's going to be definitely not so dry because of the repeated storms. That goes on by. Maybe a little bit of snow, however, for Monday afternoon and evening for Michigan and Wisconsin. But that just kind of is a nothing burger. Moves on, and it's out of there. With more storms, third storm hits California, southern Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas might get in some rain for Tuesday morning next week for Christmas Eve, but especially the West. I cannot say it enough. The West is going to have problems, I'm sure, with a lot of traffic headaches, Carmageddon, Trafficmageddon, however you want to say it, could be a problem. And then fourth storm hits California, and this one right here in particular, let's kind of zoom in really quick on the West. Not that I don't want to focus on much of the U.S., but this one in particular right in here, this one could be particularly dangerous. There's a lot of heavy rainfall here on the order of about 1/4 inch to about 1/2 inch an hour. Very heavy mountain snowfall above about 5,000 to 6,000 feet. And when we look at our PWatt values really quickly here, I wanted to show you all this. While PWatt values here don't look overly impressive, if we look at our 700 millibar flow, that is very exceptional. That's near 100 knot, or actually 80 knot flow at 10,000 feet. 5,000 foot level flow too, very strong here. So there's going to be a lot of forcing over the terrain, a lot of orographic forcing, and that's going to squeeze out a lot of that moisture. So that is why, even though our PWatts are not up to 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches, there's going to be a lot of Jetstream dynamics, a lot of lift in the atmosphere to squeeze out all this moisture. And this is for the day after Christmas. So Christmas Day in particular here looks all right for travel. But you only have like a day window before that atmospheric river slams in, and that could be a big one with those strong winds that move on through. Look at these winds. This is a big storm. This is a big deal. We will have to really watch on what the models do with this in days ahead. Does this shift any further south? Does it go further north? It's very hard to say, but wherever it hits, it's going to definitely be a wet one and a windy one. And then after that goes by, more storms hit California and the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's just repeated storms, just storm after storm after storm, that storm sequence. And in particular, a very strong area of low pressure does hit Pacific Northwest. Look at that, by the way. That would be hurricane force winds moving over Washington. Keith Evans, heads up, brother. Yep, Euro's going aggressive on you, right? And then more rain, of course, more sogginess to the weather for next weekend, leading up to New Year's week. All right, so yeah, it's going to be active, but especially for the West is where we have the strong winds. And then maybe eventually we will see for the upper Midwest, but no snow at all. There's no snow in the forecast other than the two little pieces of energy, this one, and then say goodbye to the snow and colder temperatures, because the pattern is definitely going to be changing. Now, looking at the rainfall totals over the next 10 days, and then for stupidity reasons, we're going to go all the way out to the very end of the model into early January to looking at those rainfall totals, because I'm telling you right now, the Pacific Northwest certainly expecting to see a lot of rainfall. Northern California in 10 days, some of these areas right up in here could have 10 plus inches of rainfall. That's an inch a day on average. That's incredible amounts of rainfall in a short amount of, well, in a rather short amount of time, not over a 2 or 3 week period. This is within a week period span. And then, of course, for Oregon and Washington, getting a lot of rain. And, of course, over here in the midsection of the United States, you're looking at about maybe 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. Oh, man, poor Indiana. Not going to get a whole lot up here. Been really tough to go by with any rainfall or snow this season so far. And yeah, Indiana in the next 10 days might see less than a half of an inch of rainfall. That's bad news. That's not good. And when we look at the 10-day precipitation anomaly here, it is definitely below average for the deep south, for the northeast, and also for portions of the Great Lakes. Whereas California, too bad, so sad, we're stealing all your rainfall, right? And when we go forward out in time, maybe Indiana beyond that may get more rainfall, but that's hard to come by because of the uncertainty this far out in the forecast. But I'll tell you what, northernmost California, heads up, 10 to 15 inches of rainfall, maybe isolated rainfall amounts near Crescent City could breach 24 inches. 24 inches, that's 2 feet of rainfall in about 2 weeks. That is phenomenal. Your snowfall forecast is not looking very good either. The white Christmas chances are non-existent, unfortunately. For Indiana, you might get only maybe an inch or less of snowfall at all through the next 10 days. In fact, white Christmas, not going to happen, I don't think. Whatever snows on the ground is going to stay on the ground maybe, or probably melt almost instantaneously because of the warmer temperatures. But yeah, some of these areas in the Great Lakes could get anywhere between 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. With more additional snowfall, of course, with that Alberta Clipper, you might get about a foot of snowfall out of that system. But after that goes on by, say goodbye to the snow, because there's not going to be much of it coming your way beyond the forecast because of how warm the weather pattern is going to be. All right, so now looking at your temperature anomalies here, this is important because, yeah, you all are excited about, oh, we're going to get some cold air. Yay, hallelujah. Okay, hallelujah only for a little bit because the pattern, again, is going to be changing. The Climate Prediction Center has talked about this. The ensembles are showing it. This cold pattern right now through the weekend is going to let up, and we're going to get a big thaw in the forecast by early next week, and you'll see that here. Other than the temperatures being really cold across the Northeast, in fact, some areas in the Northeast could have temperatures right around negative 20 degrees with your wind chill factor making it feel like a negative 30 to negative 35 degrees. So yeah, it's be cold in some of these areas, and then goodbye. Let Santa Claus enjoy some warm weather as he comes from the North Pole. Let's look at how warm it's going to be. Let me actually use this so you all can see the full view of what we're looking at here. Very warm up here in northern Saskatchewan, northern Manitoba, and Quebec and Ontario, Canada, Hudson Bay. Temperatures 25 to 45 to even 50 degrees above average for Christmas Day next week. That is pretty phenomenal. Very warm Inferno Christmas, likely for those people that are not used to temperatures this warm this time of the year. Again, this is looking at climatology. And to end out December, I mean, this is just ridiculous. This is getting absurd here. Lots of red on the screen across the United States, especially for Indiana. Going to see some record warm overnight lows and daytime high temperatures, probably more than likely. And that's going to last all the way through the early part of January. So to end out December, be very warm. Do not expect any snow or any cold weather whatsoever. It's going to be warm. The reason why that is going to be the case is you can blame it on the polar vortex and the jet stream, right? The polar vortex is pretty strong right now, and so is the jet stream to go along with it. So let's go on and forward here. You can see northwesterly flow. We've talked about this in past videos that ushers in colder air from higher latitudes because there's your polar vortex, there's your trough moving over Hudson Bay. That's why these areas are going to have a cold snap for this weekend. But as that moves through, you can see ridging dominates and the flow changes. We get more zonal flow and the flow is more weaker. because your height lines, your gradient between the subtropical ridge down here and the trough well up to the north, there's less of a gradient difference. So your jet stream is weaker, and that means, well, it's going to be dominated by warmer temperatures. In fact, on Christmas Day here, there's ridging. There's essentially ridging, no cold weather at all. Okay, and this is going to continue for a while. I mean, look at this. This is zonal flow. Even so, this is northwesterly flow. You can see it comes from here. It's not coming from way up here. So that means most of this flow is zonal overall, not meridional. And that means your temperatures will be above average. This Pacific air is going to be ushering in those warmer temperatures. And this is going to continue through early January. You can see this zonal flow. Essentially, no polar vortex making a visit to the United States. Now, if you found the video really helpful, detailed, and informative, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel right now if you did enjoy the video. Hit the like button if you also did enjoy it too. And also don't forget to leave a comment in the section below this video letting me know what your thoughts on this video are and what you want me to do to improve my content as often as I can. But otherwise, thank you all for watching. I might do a special video on the Thule fog for the Central Valley tomorrow. So tomorrow's video will mainly be focused on California because I want to school you all and give you guys a little lecture on what causes this Thule fog and why it can persist for days on end without mixing out. So that will be in tomorrow's video, most likely in the afternoon. But anyways, thank you guys for watching.